Good morning, afternoon, or evening, everyone. My name is Jeremy Walsh, and I'm the Director of Support, Training, and Documentation for BNI Connect. I'd like to welcome everybody to the webinar today, especially Sumitra from India. I believe this is his third webinar in a row, and I just wanted to say thank you so much for being here for the past couple of days. So welcome to everybody. So today's webinar is on the member-level tools and reports that are in the system. We're going to be going and diving in a little bit deeper into BNI Connect to find out some of the things that you can do as a member, maybe some of the reports, some of the things that you can get out of BNI Connect that I believe can enhance your membership. A couple of housekeeping things before we get started with today's content, and that is that this is a live webinar. So if you have any questions at all as we're going through anything today, please do feel free to ask those questions. All you need to do is type your question in. I'll see it pop up on my screen, and I'll be able to answer that question as we're going through the material today. Today's webinar is scheduled for about 30 minutes of material. That being said, if you do have questions, I'm here in support, and I answer questions all day, every day, so I am happy to stay on these webinars until every single question is answered, and it can be any question about BNI Connect, so even if it's outside the scope of what we're covering today, feel free to ask those questions. I love to get the knowledge out of our heads and into yours. We are recording this session as well. You'll be able to review the recording if you'd like to, or share the recording with other chapter members. After the session is done, usually within a couple of days, we'll have it uploaded to our YouTube channel. So our YouTube channel is youtube.com/BNI Connect Global. Again, that's youtube.com/BNI Connect Global. And up here you can find a ton of videos. There's special messages from Dr. Meisner. We have a whole series of educational moments. And then we have the webinars done month by month. You can also find all of our webinars if you go to the support site. The way to get to the support site, click on this question mark in the upper right-hand corner, right below the options button here. There's a question mark. Click on that. That will take you over to the support site. You'll see all of our upcoming webinars. I just put up the November schedule today. As well as in training and documentation, you will see recorded webinars. And you'll see all the ones, and they're nicely laid out month by month by month. All right, so let's take a look at some stuff for today. So today's webinar, again, is on the member tools and reports. Now, if you've ever logged into BNI Connect before, you should be fairly familiar with this home screen here. And this is the My BNI Business page. The My BNI Business page really is where most of us are going to spend most of our time because it has to do with the weekly functions, such as submitting all of your slips and passing a referral and things like that. Now, I'm not going to go over that in too much detail today, again, because we have a whole webinar dedicated to that. But if you do need to pass a referral, it's pretty straightforward. Just click on Submit a Referral Slip. Fill out the information for the referral, choose who the referral is going to, or you can search your region for another member that you've done business with, and click Submit. Some other things that are on this homepage that might be of interest is this does give you your breakdown of your activity over the past 12 months and your lifetime in BNI. So that right there is an insight into your membership and how well you're doing, how well you're performing in the chapter. And if you'd like to go into more detail, you can also click on this link right here, the My Personal Participation Report. And this is a great report so that you can really go in depth into looking at your membership and your own personal statistics. So if I was to click on the My Personal Participation Report, what this does is it reaches into the system and it pulls your name out of all of the PALMS reports for the last 12 months. So you can see that the report date here is from today of October 17th of 2013 through October 17th of 2014. And here I can look through and see my weekly activity week by week by week. Now this is really important too, because if you are looking at your home screen here and you say, you know what, I think that, I had more visitors last year, and I really need to, figure out why I didn't get marked as visitors. You can always go into this personal participation report and take a look through and say, you know what, I think I had a visitor on October 2nd. Let me see if the visitor was marked there. And I can see that the visitor was not marked as having attended on the 2nd. So now I would go back to my vice president or my membership coordinator and say, there might be a problem with the POMS report, and they might be able to fix that for you or explain why the visitor wasn't recorded, for example. Or if the thank you for closed business numbers are off or any of the other information on there. It'll also give you a quick rundown of your attendance over the past year, how many members you've sponsored in the last year, and the training that you have attended over the past year. One thing to keep in mind is that both the My Personal Participation Report and this report here, the snapshot report, will only be updated on a week-by-week basis after your vice president has submitted the numbers. So after your chapter meeting, usually within a couple of days, your vice president will submit the POMS report for that meeting. After that, all of these numbers and the personal participation report will change. All right, so I said I wanted to go a little deeper today into BNI Connect and show you some other things that are in the system. So in order to do that, we're going to have to dive into the menus a little bit. Now, one thing that I hear from a lot of different people is, BNI Connect's not very user-friendly. I don't know where to find anything. It's so confusing. Here's my little hint for remembering where to go for things. Up along the top, you'll see a couple of menu options. You'll see the home screen, which will take you back to the home screen. You have network, operations, and reports. And most people won't see tools and admins unless you happen to be a chapter webmaster or if you happen to have a regional role. But most people are going to see network, operations, and reports. Now, going into those three things, network is where all of these social media things are located. So the groups, the connections, the testimonials, all of those things are located under the network menu. So that leaves two other menus, operations and reports. Operations is where we're going to go to do any input or really the tools in the system. So if you happen to be on the leadership team, you need to input the weekly POMS report, or if you're a secretary-treasurer and you're going to input the speaker rotation, you're going to go to operations. On the other hand, if you are looking to get information back out of BNI Connect, you're going to go to reports. So let's take a look at the operations menu and take a look at some of the things that you should have access to under there. So I'm going to go to operations chapter. And now, depending on your level of permissions, now let me start off by saying that what you see in BNI Connect is dependent on your role in BNI Connect and what positions you might hold in the chapter. So some of the things that may appear on my screen, because I'm a system administrator, also on the leadership team of my chapter, may or may not appear for you if you're not holding a leadership team position right now. However, the things that I think I'm going to show you today should be accessible to just about everybody. If they're not, or if you think you should be seeing something and it's not there, the best thing to do is to talk with your director consultant or your executive director. They have the ability to go in and add permissions or change permissions or make sure that you have access to the tools that you need to use. So the first thing I wanted to show you was under this Manage Visitor. Everybody should see Manage Visitor. And one thing you should see under here is Register a Prospective Visitor. Now, what this is used for is if you have invited a visitor to the meeting and they have said, yes, I would like to come to the meeting, this actually pre-registers them for an upcoming meeting. And that's a great thing because it starts a whole email process with this potential visitor. It sends them an email confirming that they are registered to visit the meeting. It also sends that visitor a reminder 2 days before your chapter meeting. So it makes it a little bit more professional than just you run into somebody at a networking event, say, hey, you want to come to my chapter meeting? Yeah, sure thing. I'll see you next Thursday. This makes it a little bit more official. It lets them know that people are expecting them to be there. So all you need to do is really to go through this form, fill out all of the different fields, and click Submit. And again, that will start the registration process and register them for that upcoming meeting. The next thing I want to show you under the Operations menu is if you go down to Create Email. Now there's 3 tools in here that you might find very helpful. The first of which here is the Email My Chapter. Now, how many of you before have had to send out an email to your whole chapter? Before BNI Connect, the way that we would have to do that would be to, if you weren't keeping your own email distribution list, you would have to probably go back to your sent items or go back to your received items, look for the last group email, hit reply all, and kind of hope that it went to all the right people. Well, what this does is this gives you a immediate current email distribution list for your chapter. So I can go in, I can highlight these, and I can open up my email program and paste them in. Now I know that all of the active members of my chapter are going to get that email. Anybody that might have left the chapter recently, they will no longer be on that list. And anybody that was new should be added to that list. I would just need to then type out my email and send it. Now I do recommend that you put everybody in this BCC line here. That will make sure that all of the addresses aren't shared if they get forwarded and so on and so forth. It also cuts down on some of the reply all chatter that tends to happen in emails to a lot of people. And once you're done, you can just close that. Now the second thing I wanted to show you under this Create Email is there is an email visitor invitation. Now I love this one because it makes it really, really easy to send an invitation to somebody who might want to visit your chapter. The way it works is if you click on this, all you need to do is fill out a couple of pieces of information. It takes this information and it puts it into a custom email template that your region has designed, and then takes information about your chapter, such as the address and the location and what time you meet. It puts it all into this email and sends it directly to the person that you're looking to invite. So let's say I'm going to be inviting John Smith from Smith Co. His email address is, I'm actually going to put my own email address in here so you guys can see what this looks like when it's all filled out. And then I just type in a personal message. The personal message is going to be the first paragraph of this email. So you can say whatever you'd like in there. My recommendation is to make it personal. So you want to reach out to the person and let them know that it's not just an email template, but this is actually you that's writing part of this message. So maybe I want to say something like, it was great meeting you at the Chamber networking event. I would love to introduce you to my referral team. When I click send, again, it's going to wrap all this information up nicely into an email. And I should get that email momentarily. And here it is. And this is what that email looks like. So you can see that it has a custom branded BNI message. So it has the nice BNI logo up here, a picture. If anybody recalls any of the postcard invitations that have been in BNI for a long time, this is actually a copy of that postcard invitation. It then puts in Dear John, and it puts in your personal message. So put in, it was great meeting you at the Chamber event. I would love to introduce you to my referral team. It then invites him to my personal chapter. It puts in the name of my chapter. It puts in the name of the place that we meet. And then it puts in the address, the day, and the time that we meet. It then briefly describes what BNI is, lets them know that we're looking for somebody in their profession, and to please RSVP. Now, if they do reply to this email, it will go to your email address. It is set to have a reply to address of your email. And that's the visitor invitation. So the next thing I want to show you is some of the reports that are in the system. So to get to the reports, obviously we're going to go to Reports. So I'm going to click on Reports and go to the Chapter Reports. Now there are a ton of reports in the system, and in your spare time, please do feel free to go through and click on all of them, find out what they do, take a look at the data that they're sharing with you. I'm not going to go through all of them today, but I do want to show you a couple of the ones that I find most useful as a member. Again, I am a member. I'm a member here in the Rhode Island region. I've been a member of the Wakefield chapter since 2002, and I can tell you that when BNI came out, it was a godsend to me because I could actually look at all of these statistics. Before BNI Connect, I would have to wait until anybody on my leadership team might bring in a print-out copy of a lot of this information. Now I can go in anytime I want to and look this up. So the first report I want to show you is the chapter roster report. Now this one's going to seem like a very simple report, but I think it has some great information on it. And again, all it is your chapter roster. Now the top part of it is going to be your leadership team. So it will show you who your president is, your vice president, who's on the membership committee. Have you ever had an issue that you needed to deal with in the chapter? Well, we should be bringing those issues to our membership committee, but sometimes we may not remember all of the people that are on the membership committee. This is a place that you can go to look up that information. Or if you need to call your president to talk to them about something, here's where you can quickly look up their phone number if you don't already have it in your cell phone. There's also issues that you may need to bring to your director consultant. This is a way to find out who your director consultant is and what their phone number is. It will then list all of the members in your chapter, and it will give you a member count as well. Let you know what their classification is, what their company name is, and their phone number. It also gives you a snapshot of the last 90 days of activity from the PALMS report, so you can see how people are performing. Now, if you happen to be in a leadership team position, this is also a quick way to, for example, look at the number of absences that somebody has within the last 90 days. Now, if you ever are wondering when your next renewal is due, you can go in and look that information up again in the membership dues report, which is the next report on the list. You just need to click go, and this will show you all the people that are holding positions, and it will, by due date, sort this. You can just find your name in the list. So, for example, I can see that I'm due on March 1st of 2016. If you happen to be in a leadership team position, such as on the membership committee or a vice president or a secretary-treasurer, you can also use this report to find out who you might need to be doing reviews and who needs to have a renewal application. The next report in the list is a pretty simple report, but I think it's a very powerful report in what it can do. This is called the Meeting Notes Report. This report was designed with one specific function in mind, and that is to help you increase the number of referrals that you are able to give. And the way that it does that is by giving you a list to take notes during a chapter meeting, so that as people are going around and giving their weekly presentations, people are telling stories and they're asking for specific referrals. Well, because there's, you go through 20, 30, 40 members in a chapter, by the time you get to the end of that list, you may not remember what the first person said or what the second person said or even what the 15th person said. You're only going to remember the couple of memorable ones before it falls out of your short-term memory. The Meeting Notes Report is designed so you can print it out or save an electronic copy if you'd like to and be able to take notes during the meeting. So if I click go, as you can see, all it is the list of members and their company names, and then a blank space to keep notes. Now, this report really was designed to be printed or exported. All of the reports in BNI Connect can be printed or exported. So if I wanted to print this one, I could click the print button here, and I could then print this out. I could change it from portrait to landscape depending on my browser settings and which printer engine they use. But really, I think this report is great because it can be exported. Now, there's two different options here for exporting that you'll see on most reports. The first one says export without headers, and the second one says export. What export without headers means is it's not going to include all of this information up here. Including this information is great, but it does have the tendency to kind of skew the way that the columns and everything line up in the report. So I usually choose to export without headers. It'll then download the report to Excel for you. When I open up this report, now I can see that really I can make the best use of layout if I'd like to. So if I'd like to, let's say, make this report have a little bit more space for taking notes, I could do that. Let me expand that out, and maybe I want to also make the notes field a little bit bigger for taking notes. Now I can either print this out or do whatever I'd like with it so that I can, again, be more effective in my chapter meeting. By the way, here's a little Excel tip for you. If you're using a modern version of Excel, the last couple of versions, my personal favorite button in the entire program is this button up here that says Format as Table. If you click on Format as Table, it allows you to apply a color scheme. But what I love most about it is that you can now easily sort your Excel spreadsheet however you'd like to. So if you'd like it better sorted by first names or company names or however else you'd like to do it. And it makes it easier, especially if you wanted to use this as an Excel sheet to take electronic notes during the meeting. So again, very simple report, but something that I think can help increase the amount of referrals that you are able to give in BNI. The next report on the list is the Summary Palms report. The Summary Palms report is really, it's the meat and potatoes of BNI. It's all of our activity for our chapter and for ourselves over a period of time. So by default, this is going to show us the last 6 months of activity. Now we can change that date to whatever we'd like to. So if I'd like to go back and look at the last, let's say, 5 years worth of activity, I can do that. It also gives you the opportunity to either include or exclude the dropped members in the list. So the totals will still be shown no matter what, but it's just a matter, especially if, let's say, I wanted to look at the report for the last 10 years or so. If I include dropped members, I will see on this list every single person that has ever been a member of my chapter in the last 10 years. So that can be kind of confusing. So we give you the option to also exclude the dropped members. And that way I'm still looking at the totals for that period of time, so I can see that my chapter generated $17 million worth of business. However, I'm only looking at the contributions of the current members of the chapter. And again, this can be exported. You can make graphs once you get them into Excel and all sorts of fancy things. I'm going to skip down a couple of reports. One of my other favorite reports is called the Classifications Not in Chapter. And the reason that I like this report is because it's one of those brainstorming reports, in my opinion, that help you with inviting people to come and visit your chapter. A lot of times, your director consultant may come to you, or your leadership team may come to you and say, hey, how come you haven't invited anybody in a long time to come and visit the chapter? And I've heard a lot of people say, oh, well, I can't really think of anybody to invite. This report can help you with that. So if I click Go on this Classifications Not in Chapter report, what this report shows me is it shows me all of the professions that my chapter doesn't have. But what's powerful about it is that it then ranks this report based on how popular it is in my region. So in other words, we do not have a plumber in our chapter, and I can verify that we don't have a plumber. However, this is telling me that out of the 20 or so chapters in our region, that 6 other chapters do have a plumber. And what that tells me is that plumber is a fairly successful and popular category here in my region. It also tells me that if I was to invite a plumber, I can point him to some successes, or her, to some successes within my region. It also means that I'm not necessarily competing against other chapters to attract a plumber to my chapter. One thing to keep in mind is that because the way the categories are in BNI Connect, the category list is about 450 or so categories long, and because of the way that categories are differentiated, this may not be 100% accurate based on your knowledge of the chapter. For example, I do know that we have a mortgage broker in our chapter. However, we have a residential mortgage broker in our chapter. So it still leaves some opportunity to maybe invite a commercial mortgage person into our chapter. All right, before on the home screen, I showed you the personal participation report. If you'd like to look at more than 1 year of time, or you'd like to look at that report for somebody else in your chapter, you can do that using the Personal Palms report. This one gives you the flexibility to choose any time range you would like to, and you can choose any member of your chapter, including yourself, to look at a more expanded history. So for example, if I wanted to go back to when I first became a member, let's say back in 2002, and look at my entire history, I could do that. And if I scroll down to the bottom, of course, it will show me people that I've sponsored, as well as the trainings that I've attended. All right, the final report that I'm going to show you for today, and again, I encourage you to come back and look through all of the reports, but the final report I'm going to show you today is the Member Details Report. One of the things that we're taught in the Member Success Program is that we should be doing what's called a gains exchange before we have a one-to-one with someone. And the gains exchange is important because it does help you to learn a little bit more information about the member that you're meeting with before you sit down and meet with them. And this really does help to turbocharge that one-to-one, because instead of talking about the weather and who won the sports game last night, there may be something of interest in their bio or in their gains profile, the goals, accomplishments, interests, networks, and skills that lead you down a different path of conversation. So it does help to build that visibility and credibility even faster. And this is a great way to look up that information in a printable format for other members. So for example, if I wanted to share my gains with somebody, I could always go to the View Member Gains. I can choose myself from the list and grab my gains profile. I can even highlight it and copy and paste it and throw it into an email so I can do that gains exchange before I meet with somebody. This also gives me the ability to kind of swap between the different areas of my biography. All right, the final thing that I want to show you is now that you've gone through and you've looked at some of the reports, you might have a couple of favorite reports that you're going to want to go into more often. If I go back to my home screen, you'll notice that under My BNI Business and My Network, you should see a chapter icon as well. Now what this does is it's a shortcut menu that you can customize with all of your favorite reports and tools. So for example, if I click on chapter, this will be basically shortcuts so I don't have to go into operations and reports and tools. I can put any of my shortcuts here instead. So to go through and customize your shortcuts, click on the Configure button. All of the things on the list on the left-hand side are the things that are currently in your shortcut menu. All of the things on the right-hand side are all of the things that you have access to. If I'd like to put something into my shortcut list, I could just click the checkbox. So let's say this meeting notes report is one of my new favorite reports, and I want to make sure I have quick one-click access to that all the time. So I'm going to put a check mark in the box, and it's going to move over into my active list. I can then move it to the top of the list if I'd like to. And perhaps since I'm no longer on the leadership team, I don't necessarily need to be entering POMS reports that often, so I'll take that out of there as well. Once I'm satisfied with my list, I can then click Submit. I can close it. And now my chapter list has the meeting notes report right at top. So if I click on the meeting notes report, it'll bring me right to the meeting notes report without having to go into the reports menu. And I can flip back to my business whenever I'd like to and submit some referrals or possibly a CEU slip for today's webinar. All right, so we are at the bottom of the hour. What I'd like to do is to thank everybody for being here today. And at this time, I'd also like to open it up to any questions that you might have about BNI Connect, whether it's about the tools and the reports or about anything else in BNI Connect. I'd love to answer those questions now. While you're thinking of any questions, or for those of you that might need to leave right away, just a reminder, this is being recorded. You'll be able to find the recording on the support site. Again, you can get to the support site by clicking on this question mark up here in the upper right-hand corner. You can also go to youtube.com/BNI Connect Global. You should see the webinars updated in a couple of days up on our YouTube channel as well. I would also love it if you gave us a like on Facebook, facebook.com/BNI Connect Global. We do tips and tricks and announcements and all sorts of things up here on our Facebook channel as well. Let's see. We have a question from Marty. Is it possible to view past webinar presentations? And absolutely. So the way to do that, again, click on this question mark, and that will bring you over to the support site. Once here, scroll down a little bit to Chapter Training and Documentation. You'll see a section that says Recorded Webinars. In here, you'll see all of our past recordings for the past couple of years, going back to 2012, here that you can review any of them. The September 2014, last month, we had a full series of webinars, so you should be able to review any of the topics for last month. And again, this month will be up there, hopefully, shortly. Sumitra says, is it okay if I use my own invitation email scripts? That would be something to talk to your director consultant or your executive director about. So definitely check with your director consultant or executive director, Sumitra. So excellent, Marty. I'm very glad that you found that helpful. All right, do we have any other questions, comments, concerns? I'd love to answer those now. By the way, a good referral for me, if you found today's session helpful, or if you found this to be worthwhile, please do recommend these to your fellow chapter members. Or if you happen to be a director consultant, or if you're a regional admin, please do forward these webinars to the members within your region. Our very next webinar is going to be on Monday. So on Monday the 20th, at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern, we're going to go through the whole visitor process in BNI Connect. And then after that, on Wednesday, we will be having a Maintaining Your Chapter website. And as I said, I did just post a November schedule as well. So we're going to be going through the entire series again in November. Marty says, how many credits do these webinars count for? These would count for 1 credit. So on your Submit CEU slips, you can choose either the first or the second option. Second option, at least in English United States, does have BNI webinar. So you can just put a 1 in here and click Submit. All right, do we have any other questions? Deb says, we are a new chapter, and under the Operations tab, the only option is Chapter. That's correct. The only thing that you'll see is Operations Chapter. If you happen to someday become a director consultant or an ambassador, you might see a region level. What that means is, for those of us that are in higher level roles, we have access to view, for example, reports for other chapters and things like that, and that's what the region menu is. But as a member of a single chapter, you would only see Operations Chapter. You would only see Reports Chapter. So, for example, excuse me, I'm going to log in with a regular member account. So it's perfectly normal to just see, for example, Operations Chapter and Reports Chapter. So that's what a regular member would see. This is my friend Alfred E. Newman up in Antarctica. So does that help, Deb? All right. Any other questions? Marty appreciates my Mad Comics test member, so thank you, Marty. And Sumitra says, fantastic again, and thank you guys all so much for being here. So doesn't look like we have any additional questions. Cliff says, thank you so much for your time today, and I'd like to thank all of you for your time today, taking time out of your busy day and possibly taking time away from billable hours to be here and learn more about BNI Connect. So again, have an absolutely wonderful weekend, everybody. Enjoy whatever climate you happen to be in. Happy connecting, everyone.